Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. We're here with some folks from Ben's studio. Thanks for taking the time this morning to join us.
Glad to be here.
I want to remind everyone we are monitoring social media. If you have any questions you'd like us to pop onto the stream, just use hashtag RTE3. We'll be monitoring and picking out anything that we see that looks good. So Days Gone, big unveil. I think nobody. Well, I didn't know this was coming. I think blew everyone away during the press conference last night. How long have you been working to get to this point? To now you can finally show something off.
Well, first I want to congratulate Jeff for actually completing the demo. It was touch and go there for a while when he was up on the roof and the horde was kind of swarming around him. I was like gripping the edge of my seat.
So was I.
Congrats, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we've been working on it for about 3.5 years. So we did Uncharted Golden Abyss for those of you who don't know. That came out on the Vita in 2011. That's when we launched it. And then we were given the opportunity to start working on a PS4 game. So that's what we've been doing for like the last 3.5 years. It's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, you guys you've done a lot of like PSP and PS Vita games. Like this is a big jump up to the PS4. What was sort of the transition to go from the mobile stuff up to more of a grand scale?
Well, it was an interesting transition. It's taken some time, but we've probably doubled our staff. We're at 100 people. We're still a really small team, but we were probably about 40 or 50 with Golden Abyss. So we definitely had to start there. But it was really just a matter of, we're going to build a big game, a big AAA game, and we just have to be smart and kind of build systems, and that was really good game design to think that way. It enabled us to make it, and it also really kind of lends itself to probably one of the coolest things about our game, which is this thing we're calling the ecosystem, which means everything's got rules and it plays back the same way each and every time, depending on how you play it. Knowing the rules, you can change the way it plays back at you by applying different tools and strategies and tactics. So that's been the tactic for building the big game and also making it as fun as possible.
And we also have a lot of really good technology. So Christopher Reese, who's our studio director, is also on the board, the advisory board at Epic. And so we decided to go with Unreal 4 pretty early on. And we've written a lot of our own custom code that allows us to just pull off these amazing vistas. Everything you saw in the trailer is real. Those are all environments that you can ride your bike through, you can go out and explore. And we just really wanted to create the most detailed open world ever seen.
So, you're talking about these systems and you're talking about, this open world aspect of the game. Is there going to be an emphasis like on camping and hunting and survival? Are we going to see, are there systems for that in the game?
There are. It's not a survival game. It's certainly got elements like that because they serve the fantasy and the fiction of the world. That people need to survive, and those are some base elements that are included there. But it fits into the larger whole of the ecosystem and the dynamic world.
And I like that the character's name is Deacon St. John. Like, could you cram any more religious names into one guy's name?
Middle name is the Pope.
Okay.
Right.
Deacon the Pope St. John.
Right?
I don't think
I
that's
admit
canon.
to a certain amount of symbolism in that. So, because again, I hope you could tell from the trailer that what we wanted to do was create an experience that had a lot of depth to it, and that wasn't just going to be, because when you hear about freakers and bikers in a post-apocalyptic world, you might think of something a little more campy and cartoony, and we were really wanting to tell human stories. So there's a lot of storytelling in this game, and we starting with Deacon. So his past life as a biker brought a certain skill set that we thought was really intriguing. We were attracted. Obviously, we love games where there's a lot of hacking and slaying and shooting, but it was really more about the brotherhood of the sort of the biker camaraderie, that kind of thing. So we really wanted to explore that as well.
Yeah, man. We're watching some gameplay here, and like watching the zombies just spill out of that train. It's
Freakers, not zombies.
Excuse me, freakers. Freakers spilling out of the train. That's incredible, and it's just. That's terrifying, seeing that many bodies just flying at you. I mean, that's...
The sheer numbers of them is, again, one of the things that our technology makes possible. But, and again, it's like, I know we're going to hear zombie all the time. And one of the things we really want to make clear is that it's an ecosystem. So, there's millions and millions of these things out there. There's all different types. They're living. They interact with each other, even if you're not around. And so you can learn their behaviors, you can learn their habits, you can learn where they fit in their niche. And, that's one of the things we find really excited about the open world, is that it's just populated with, these infected creatures that are all challenging.
You said there's different types. Do you mean like there's almost like classes within the freakers, or just like different?
Yeah, so over the next few months, we'll talk a lot more about that. But you saw two of them in the demo. You saw one, which is what we're calling a Newt. The Newts were adolescents when they were infected by the virus. And so they are opportunistic. They will run away from you unless you're low on health, or unless you're distracted by something else, or if you're being attacked by something else, they might jump in. So that's one type, and then the horde is another type. And these are swarmers that all kind of like gather together. They almost like have a hive mind. They attack as one, they eat as one, they travel as one, and you can encounter. And when early parts of the game, when you encounter them, you just like you saw in the demo, you have to run. There's just no way you can kill them.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. So you talked about how Deacon was a biker as well. How much that plays into the game as far as like, does he have friends and stuff that he can rely on, or is it more just he's flying solo the whole time?
No, you saw in the trailer that he's got at least one friend that survived with him. And so, that's kind of one of the things we wanted to explore is like, what would, because I was a huge fan of Sons of Anarchy, and I was like, what if Jax were by himself in a post-apocalyptic world? What would that be like? And, it's like, again, what I found interesting about that character is like their love of the open road, and all the roads in our game are destroyed, during the aftermath of the apocalypse. And so we created this special bike called the Drifter bike, and there's a lot of off-roading, and there's just a lot you can do with that. And so that's kind of what drew us to that character. And then he's a broken man, so that's one of our taglines is broken road, broken man. And we wanted to explore sort of the personal loss and what kind of what would that like if you and I were in that world and we had lost everybody we loved, what would that do to us? Why would we want to continue to survive? What would be our motivation for this to continue?
Well, it's our animal instinct, but I think that it's not a biker game in that it's about that culture. It's about a man who comes from that culture, who's struggling to adapt to this new world, who's struggling to adapt and interact with other survivors who didn't come from that same world, and it generates a lot of conflict that's organic, and it drives a lot of kind of pure, well-motivated missions and things to kind of establish trust in that new world.
Yeah. You got to figure too. I mean, honestly, there's no more traffic, so you can just just
well, unfortunately,
cross-country trips.
Unfortunately,
right?
there is traffic, but they're freakers.
Oh, okay.
That's even worse.
If you're riding down the highway and you
run
run into a horde on your bike, then that's quite an adventure.
So
man.
it's interesting that you mentioned Sons of Anarchy, because I had a tweet here from Phil by Kid on Twitter who said, is it like Sons of Anarchy in the Apocalypse? Which you talked about a little bit already, but drawing from that, what are the other influences that led to this? People looked at it initially and thought, maybe there was like a Last of Us influence. People talk about Sons of Anarchy. What is it that inspired you to kind of make Days Gone what it is?
Open world games. Mostly,
Yeah,
right?
it started as the desire to do an open world game. I mean, looking at our offices, it's like, to me, kind of part of the core fantasy is like, what if I was just in that parking lot right there when shit went down? Like, what would I do? And so this game is a simulator for you to kind of exercise your options and kind of figure out, to try them and see if you're smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, find the nearest Walmart and just hole up. That's what I would
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of it is, like I said, we're big fans of open world games. We've played them all, and we wanted to try to bring something new to it. So we wanted to create a dangerous world, and that was probably the most important thing. But also, like Jeff was saying, it's like setting it kind of in our own backyard. So Bend Studio is actually in the high desert of Central Oregon. And the people think of the Pacific Northwest, they think of Seattle and lush forests and rain. Dude, that's not the way it is. It's like 80% of Oregon, 80% of Washington is high desert. So the Cascade Mountain Range is this volcanic range of mountains. All millions of years of volcanic activity have scarred the landscape. So you have these lava tube caves, you have, ravines and these high plateaus, and it's a biome that is very dense in a small area. So you can be riding through lush forests, and 5 minutes later be down in the Badland desert.
And desert doesn't mean cacti.
No,
Right,
it just means
it
it means extreme is what it means, and weather plays a huge part in the game. So you can be riding your bike, and then suddenly this downpour happens, and then it changes the controls of the way you ride the bike.
Are there, when you're traveling around this open world, are there other vehicles you use as well, or is it just primarily motorcycle travel when you're traveling around?
Well, what the trailer showed and what one of the taglines is the broken road. I mean, the infrastructure fell apart, traffic jams killed a lot of people. So it turns out that one of the reasons why Deacon survived was because his particular skill set was he knew how to ride a bike, and it was easy to kind of split lanes, go through disasters real quick. And trying to do a 5-point turn on a road when the horde is bearing down on you, not smart. It's instant death. So it's
and that was a choice we made early on.
It was
too,
a very
because
deliberate choice.
because he came from that biker culture. We're not the kind of game where vehicles are disposable like a lot of games. Deacon's bike has a lot of attributes to it. Again, we'll talk more about that later. But you're not going to want to leave your bike behind because you kind of need it to survive. It's basically another character in the game.
Right, and you saw his saddlebags, his inventory he can carry on the bike. It's really important for the player to kind of expand his capacity so he can take as much into the field as possible, and then also
he can carry enough Molotovs.
so he can carry enough ammo to kill the horde.
I say it sounds like an upgrade system to me, Gus.
No, we never said that.
I heard expandable. No, so the open world obviously is going to be a huge part of the game. Can you talk about how big this open world is? Like how many many areas we might have, how many locations, or is that still under wraps?
It's big. It's big. So again, you saw in the trailer, we showed a few of the environments and showed a little bit of the diversity. Yeah, we're not talking about exactly how big, because one of the things that we've done when we were developing the game is just really kind of trying to make it as interesting as possible. So we measure the size of the world based on how long it takes to ride from one place to another. So we say, hey, every 30 seconds we want to be able to get to some place that has a different feel, or has something I can explore, or has something I can encounter.
So, yeah, you don't want to make it huge just for the sake of making it huge. You just want to make sure that it's appropriately populated and there's enough stuff to do.
Yeah, the scale is right for being on a bike.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Have you all talked at all about? I mean, are you ready to talk about any potential multiplayer with the game? Is any co-op or anything like that?
No,
Yeah.
there's no multiplayer.
Okay.
We're focusing on our strengths, which are compelling single player content. It's a great campaign, a really compelling story, and the gameplay is very player centric. So we wanted to make the best single player game possible.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, we've seen kind of a resurgence of these single-player stories being told, and I personally love it. I love being able to sit down and play a narrative at my own pace, not have to rely on either friends that don't know what they're doing or getting in the way of you. So, I mean, I'm 100% behind that. That's great.
Yeah.
In addition to the freakers who we've seen in the demo and in the trailer, are there other encampments like human enemies or
Oh, yeah,
or
absolutely.
factions that you have to worry about?
Yeah.
It's in addition to the freakers, it's humans aren't really any better from a safety point of view, and it's the people who survived at this point are just nasty people. They're strong-willed. They're willing to do anything it takes to survive themselves. So between the humans and the world, the danger of the terrain and the freakers, I mean, this world is actively trying to kill the player at all times. So humans offer hope, and they also offer hazard.
Yeah, there's two hints about that in both the trailer and in the demo. So in the demo, he's chasing this guy named Two Dog, and it's really just kind of a sample of one of our bounty hunting missions. So you'll have, like Jeff was saying, it's like the world is filled with murderers and marauders and cannibals. And if you're not in one of the human encampments where there's some semblance of law and order, and the encampments are all kind of different, then if you encounter somebody out in the world, they're probably going to try to kill you. So it's very, very dangerous. And so that's one of the things Deacon is sort of paid to do, is go and track these people down, track down. So if you've murdered somebody in one of the encampments, they'll give you the job to kind of go out and find this person.
Obviously, I've never had to deal with end of times apocalypse, but I always pictured in my mind that if the apocalypse came, that people would band together and help each other. And then I think the experience I had that proved otherwise was when I first played DayZ. And I encountered another human player, and I thought, okay, we can work together. And then, they instantly shoot you because the stuff you have is more valuable than you as a person.
Camaraderie, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like another human slows you down. So I'm really excited to see, how this dynamic works.
Which
with
is super
different
interesting, because Jeff and I, again, were huge fans of DayZ, played it a lot. And one of the things we were kind of thinking is because, players in that world tend to be just really over-the-top nasty. And, it's like, what if that were a single-player experience and you could craft something around those kinds of ideas?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I heard this somewhere. I can't cite my source, but there's an apocalypse saying that as a society we're about 6 missed meals from eating our neighbors, and so we just really want to kind of carry that character through the tone of a lot of our encounters with people.
But one of the things I want to say, though, is that because we have this it is a very brutal game. It's in a brutal world. There's a lot of violence around the player at all times. But at the end of the day, it's an experience about hope, and that's one of the things. Again, I hope you got that from the trailer. Is that Deacon feels a great sense of loss, a great sense of grief about everything that everybody's lost, and he, it's like that's one of the things we really wanted to explore is all aspects of the human condition. So there's some nastiness out there, but you'll also find stories that are very uplifting.
Yeah, I like too that Deacon is, he's his own man, where he could have just been in one of these camps and pretty much been safe and just sat back and just lived his life like that. But instead, he's going out. He's still not that open road drive to him. That's a really neat thing. And I'm curious about this character. I want to find out more about him.
So on social media here, we have a couple of somewhat related questions. So I'm gonna kind of read them together. NBSK94 said, we saw the main character creating a suppressor with limited supplies. Is that kind of creativity a main component in the game? And then there was a follow-up from Mega Oreo Man. Great name, by the way, Mega Oreo Man. Will there be a weapon crafting system like Dead Rising, but with a more grounded feel to fit the theme?
Absolutely. It's part of this is you can carry a lot of supplies into the field, but you also have to then be able to let the world provide additional supplies for when you exhaust the ones you bring in. So we call it a MacGyver mentality. I don't know if the kids know what that means, but it's basically the ability for the main hero to figure out clever ways to build really important, deadly, lethal tools to get out of things we feel is exciting for players to do. It's very visceral.
And then we have an extended version of the demo that we're showing in the theater on the floor today, and we're going to release a video of that in the next couple of days. And in that, you'll see a lot more of what we're calling the brutal sandbox combat. So when Jeff played the demo last night, he played it one way. But trust me, that there's millions of ways you could play that demo, and there's any way you want to approach it. And a lot of that has to do with what you've crafted and what you bring to the combat scenario with you.
Yeah, and really use the environment against the enemies and find choke points where you can kill them, but also find opportunities to deploy tools. So in this demo, you'll see us build a trap weapon that is cobbled together, do-it-yourself, MacGyver style. The player can combine with the environment to take out a lot of horde all at once. And we really feel that's kind of one of the strongest characters of the game is that tool set.
Yeah.
So, FYI, I'll be at your booth later to play the demo. I definitely got to check that out.
Absolutely.
But so I mean, that was one of the other questions I wanted to ask. You kind of touched on it there. Is every encounter as intense as the demo that you showed, or are there smaller encounters as well?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this game, despite being a creature game, is highly relatable. We want the majority of the encounters to be with things where we feel like that is something that would have happened 2 years after the apocalypse. There's humanity there. We understand the motivations of all the people. So this is definitely one of the bigger encounters in the game.
Yeah, I also like the fact that you've set this, a couple of years after the apocalypse. So humanity has kind of started to rebuild itself and kind of like regain some sort of civilization in some aspects of it. So what was the thought process behind that, as opposed to just going purely like world's gone to hell? What are we doing right now?
Yeah, that was a really deliberate choice for a lot of reasons. So there's been some awesome games that we've played that have been set anywhere from 20 years to 1,000 years to 20,000 years past the end of the earth. And we just, we thought, hey, there's a sweet spot, like a couple of years, because it's like I've also played some games where the world is ending right now, and we've all seen movies that are doing that. But if you give it a couple of years, the forests haven't completely reclaimed everything, so everything still kind of looks like it looks now. It might be neglected, there might be, some deterioration, but the world has a kind of look and feel to it that I think is kind of unique to us. And like you were saying, it's like, people are in the process of rebuilding and trying to figure out, okay, what kind of a government do we want? What kind of people are we going to be? But at the end, and this is one of the things that I think that you like to talk about a lot, is that supplies are starting to run out. So, on a kind of a cultural level, we're 6 meals away from killing each other because all the canned goods are gone. Now what? So that's kind of why.
Yeah, that's really a crazy thought to think about. And I see that a lot in the apocalypse, and it makes me think about it. If I ever think about like apocalyptic scenarios, is what happens once the grocery store has been fully raided? What happens once the expiration date's gone on everything? And how are people going to go about finding food? Will we see will wildlife be present in the open world?
Yeah, you could see some in the trailer, right? You saw, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a couple of deer, and we have a huge wildlife system. Again, we're not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but yeah, it's like if you're setting a game in the high desert of the Pacific Northwest, not all the animals were wiped out by the virus.
Okay. So we're not going to run into vampires or anything like that on the Pacific Northwest, huh? No vampires.
No Twilight.
No sparkling vampires.
Okay.
The very important question here on Twitter from @OnlyJustGinger. And they even wrote, super important question, can you do a wheelie on the bike?
Are you going to answer that?
More to come later.
Oh, so
That's very, very serious.
It's a really cool bike. That's all.
All right,
It's a really cool bike with saddlebags, as we've previously discussed. Is there, talking about the bike, is there, ongoing maintenance that needs to occur? Just riding around, does your bike going to run out of gas? Are you going to need to find parts or fix it up?
We're trying to keep the game as grounded as possible, and without the game being a burden. So more about that later, but it's definitely something where we want the player to understand that this is his bike. It's persistent. So he's got to know where it is. He's got to manage it.
Yeah, so grounded is a really good term. Another one is realism. So that's one of the things we really wanted to do, was kind of hone in on, like you said, without being onerous about it, is just making it feel real. So yeah.
So maybe like we'll have to grab a gas can if we run out in the highway and like run to the nearest gas station, run back, or do that thing where you hold the handlebars like you did when you were a kid and like roll it up the street. Like, oh god.
So do you guys ride bikes yourselves? It seems like you have a real passion for the grounded aspect of the motorcycle in this game.
We have a lot of bike riders in the studio, including the studio director, Chris Reese. He's got a Harley. A couple of the other guys have Harleys. Jeff and I don't. I used to ride like when I was in my 20s, but then I became smart and realized that you can die that way.
I choose life.
Well, I think a lot of that passion shows, in the game, in the way you approach it, and even the way you talk about it.
It's actually has been really good because, like I said, Chris has a Harley. We actually took his bike out on the road to do research. We put it up on, rollers to like get the sound of the engine right. And yeah, every time we mess something up on the design side, they slap us down fast.
And also, I gotta say, your shirts too are fantastic. I don't know if you've seen the back of them. They have the bike gang patch on the back of it. It's really,
yeah,
really
and
cool.
when there's like 10 or so of us walking around and you see them from behind, it's like, wow, we're all gonna get killed if we're like in downtown LA and somebody sees us.
So is there going to be any aspect at all, like, it is an open world game, but is there any, how can I say it? Is there any permanency in the game? Like, is there any base building? Like, do you have any outposts that you base yourself out of? Or is it truly just, it's you and your bike and you're going around, trying to navigate this world?
There are permanent elements of the game that the player can change. Again, we're not going to talk about that a lot. There's no base building, per se, but there are things that you can do in the human encampments.
No, it's for a big single-player game like this. I mean, obviously, there's a major story told. Are there major branches in the game that, like, maybe if you play it one way and I play it a different way, we'll see kind of different endings?
Yeah, we're not really talking much about that either. Sorry, guys. But you're right. It's a big story, and it's. I think. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
All right. And also, I mean, I love one of the things I love about open world games is the collectibles. Are there collectibles hidden about the map as well that we can maybe get some information on?
Well, if you guys played Golden Abyss, I'm a huge fan of collectibles. I think we had more collectibles in that game than any Uncharted game ever. So yeah, we love that kind of stuff.
All right. Now, as someone one of the things I love making maps for, like, I work at Achievement Hunter, and I make maps where they show all the hidden stuff. Do me a favor, don't make it where you can easily unlock every collectible on the map. That's so frustrating. It's like, oh, they're all hidden. No, they all are on your map. It's like, well, there's no fun in that.
As someone who's a more casual player, I like that kind of system.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So
we'll
the people, there's that constant battle between guys like you and guys who want to platinum the game and not have to work at it. So it's a challenge.
That's crazy.
Have you talked at all, or are there any plans for a PC version, or are you all just going to be strictly on PS4?
We're Sony Ben, man. We're just doing PS4. We're PS4 exclusive.
Mm-hmm. I just saw a couple people ask over and over, so I was like,
PS4.
I gotta at least ask.
And by the way, I'm not sure how powerful PCs have become, but man, the PS4 without the power of the PS4, we wouldn't be able to do this game.
Looking at the number of enemies on screen, when all of the freakers are just pouring out, it's amazing. The horsepower you got to be pulling out of that system to be able to move that many polygons, have that many NPCs in the world.
Yeah.
It really seems like a lot of developers like you guys have kind of really tapped into the potential of all these next gen consoles already. It always seemed, like the PS3 and the Xbox 360, it was a few years before really people kind of grasped it. And already we're seeing some amazing titles, and your game looks beautiful. And it's like, wow, we're already there. That was quick.
Well, it was just because we've been able to work on it for as long as we have. So there's been a few other games that have come out before us. And we just have this super talented team, especially in terms of the technology and the art and the character art and the design.
Thank you.
And without these talented people, you wouldn't have that. So it's as much about the people as it is about the technology.
It is, and I want to say about the the PS4 and the Horde. What you saw last night was real. All those hundreds, thousands of Horde that were chasing me, they were real. I had to kill each and every one of them, and there was nothing faked about it. There was no front line. And then fake guys LED'd in the back. It was all real. They were coming at me.
Now,
that is the PS4.
Now, if we could talk a little bit how the sausage is made. So, did you guys have a backup plan in case something went wrong with your demo? I'm always curious about that. I love giant live shows, and I'm always curious about what happens in the background.
There's always a backup plan.
Yeah. There's always a backup plan, and I'm happy to say we did not have to go to it. So nice. But that was where most of the excitement came from on the day of the show. Was is it going to work for me?
Did you have anyone back at the office betting whether or not you'd make it all the way through? Or
almost our entire office is here. So we have 50 developers from the studio came down for the show, and they were all on the edge of their seat because they've seen the demo and they know when Jeff's about to die.
Yeah, apparently I got close to the edge of the roof, and people were sweating.
That's awesome.
So with it seems like such a small team working on such an ambitious title. Does everyone have to wear multiple hats? Does everyone have to have flexibility, or is everyone really rigid?
Yeah, this is the one thing that we train people when they first come here. If we don't cover it enough in the interview, it's Sony Bend. You got to wear a lot of hats, and it can be overwhelming, but it's exciting when you finish something. It is. You can point to a game and say, "I worked on this, and this," not just this one little tiny one specific thing, and it's exhausting, but it's the best feeling. in the world when you do it.
And being part of Sony, we also have like a lot of resources. So, for example, the sound effects team and the music team, they're down at Bridgepoint. And, Nathan Whitehead, who wrote the music that you saw at the conference. We have a full music team down here in LA that works full time, creating that part of the game. So it's not like we have to do it all in Ben's studio. We have a lot of help.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's impressive the scale that of the game, again, to say that. But have you talked at all about potential release windows? Are we looking at a year? Is that even narrowed down yet?
Oh, we're still not going there. No, we're not. We're not talking about
Last
that yet.
Guardian, right? Like you're going to be coming out, right?
I was impressed with how many games were printing specific dates last night. That was pretty cool,
Yeah,
including Last Guardian.
But we weren't one of them.
Yeah, but we weren't one of those.
Well, it's your first time. Anyone's ever seen this, so I think it's rare that you get a release date right at a reveal.
It's probably frustrating for gamers, but on the development side of it, I am just so pleased to be with Sony because they give you the chance and the opportunity to make the game right. I mean, they really want the game to be awesome. They're not interested in just kicking something out quarterly, to make a bottom line. So, it's like Last Garden, probably frustrating for gamers waiting for it for so long, but it's going to be awesome when it comes out. So.
Now, what's it like? Kind of like, I mean, you guys are kind of sandwiched between like God of War and Last Guardian, these massive titles, and you're right up on stage with them. Like, how does that feel for you guys?
Well, I think it's a great honor for one thing to kind of be in the same category with those guys. So we kind of put that feather in our cap and then got on with the show because we had to go out and play it. But it was exciting. It kind of I think it helped the team understand just kind of how big this thing is, how much respect and hope Sony has for the product, and letting the world see it now, kind of getting that feedback. So it feels great.
Yeah, I thought it was a great honor because this is the first time in any press conference they've split the trailer from the gameplay. So that was very deliberate. We really kind of wanted the trailer to come out first, and then people will be wondering, well, are they going to show any of the game? And then closing the show with that demo was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I gotta applaud you guys for creating an original IP that people are really excited about. And, a lot of times we can fall into just expecting another sequel. So we're really excited to see Days Gone when it eventually comes out at an undisclosed date at this time. But I want to thank you guys for sitting down with us and talking with us this morning. It's been really great. I promise you, I'm going to be at your booth as soon as I'm done here on camera. I gotta get my hands on it myself.
No, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. We're going to throw it back over to Joel and Adam in the sidecar, I believe. I don't know what they're doing over there.